Hey there, and welcome to the Event Crushed podcast. Each week, we'll be chatting about all things wedding industry, entrepreneurship, and how to crush it in life and business. I'm so glad you're here. Now, let's dive into this week's episode. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of the Event Crushed podcast. I am so excited to have you here today. And, I have been doing a lot of interviews lately, which has been so much fun. And I've really enjoyed them. And I hope that you have been as well. But I just was thinking, man, I haven't done a solo episode in quite a while. So I just decided this week that I wanted to throw in a solo episode into the mix, and especially because I am heading to Wedding MBA here in just a few short weeks. Actually, it's coming up so quickly, and I wanted to do an episode on wedding industry education because I think it's something that there are so many great educators out there, and unfortunately, there are a lot of not great industry educators as well, because as we know, the wedding industry has a really low barrier to entry. And so anybody can pick up a camera or, plan a wedding for a friend and then call themselves a photographer or a planner. And so with that comes a lot of people who maybe don't have a ton of experience, but then decide that they're going to do education as well. And so as someone who's been in the industry for a long time, I've seen a lot of educators come and I've seen a lot of educators go, and I've seen the ones that have stuck around who are just amazing. And I've experienced a lot of things over the years. And I think all in, I've probably spent somewhere in the ballpark of $25,000 on education. So I do have a little bit of skin in the game. I have tried a lot of different things. And so this week, I just wanted to share a bit about my personal experience with education in the industry, and then just share some do's and don'ts with you all if you are in a place of hiring a coach or, maybe doing a course or a workshop or joining a membership. Like, there's so many opportunities now, which is amazing. And I'm very, very grateful for that. But again, there's just, a mixed bag in terms of what you get. And a lot of times you get what you pay for. Other times you pay a lot of money and you regret it because you didn't get what you paid for. And so I just kind of wanted to touch on some of that this week. Also, if you are going to be at Wedding MBA in Vegas next month, please reach out to me. I would love to meet up with you. This will be my 4th year going to Wedding MBA, and I just always have such a blast. For me, my favorite part is the networking and the connections and meeting people and just seeing people year after year that I've met at Wedding MBA. So please, if you are going to be there, I would love to connect with you. So shoot me a message on Instagram, shoot me an email. If you are not familiar with Wedding MBA, I don't know if you're living under a rock or what, but it is the biggest conference for wedding pros. This year it's November 12th through 14th. So it's coming up real quick. And it's just an amazing experience. There's about 150 speakers. There's 175 seminars this year, 280 exhibits. Like, it is huge. There's thousands of people that come from all over the country and the world every year to Las Vegas for this conference, and it is such a blast. So anyways, if you're going to be there, let me know. Let's meet up. I will be at the Refine booth this year, helping out Amber and doing some demos with the Refine portal. So if you're a planner and you want to learn more about that, definitely come by and say hello and just learn about all the amazing resources that Refine offers. So before I share some do's and don'ts for you all, I just wanted to share a little bit about my personal experience with education in the wedding industry in terms of, being somebody who's consuming education. Of course, this is something that I am extremely passionate about, and I have been consuming education since I, started my business way back when in 2012. Probably didn't really start spending money until a couple, few years in. So the first big thing that I did, it wasn't until 2018. So let's say, what is that? 6 years into business. But I heard about a conference. I was following a planner named Kat, and she had a planning company called Dear Sweetheart Events. And I had been following her on Instagram. I don't even know how I came across her, but a few years into her business, she started this conference called Creative at Heart Conference. And I had seen it pop up year after year, and it was in the South or like over on the East Coast. And every year I was like, oh, I just wish they would come to the Pacific Northwest. I wish they would come to Oregon because I want to go so bad. So year after year, I kept seeing it pop up. And finally in 2018, I think it was the 8th time that she had put on the conference, but that was the year that I decided that I'm going to go. And it was, including flight and hotel and the ticket, it was thousands of dollars, probably $3,000, somewhere between like $3,000 and $4,000 to go to this conference. But I was determined, and I didn't know a single person going, which was very scary, to fly across the country from Oregon to North Carolina, not knowing anybody, and to just do this thing. So, but I did, and it was one of the greatest experiences. I had an absolute blast. I met so many other amazing planners and creatives, and I got to share a hotel room with some other planners from all across the country and just get to know them and their businesses and what was working for them and what wasn't working. And it was an absolute blast. And I came home from that conference, and my immediate thought was, man, we need something like this here in Oregon. We don't have anything like this. And so I got to work and I actually started, that was kind of the catalyst for me to start a brand that I had back in the day. I no longer am doing it, but it was called Ignite and Gather. And it was workshops, local workshops for wedding and event pros. I only got to do 2 of them, and then COVID hit. So I had tried to host another one in April of 2020, and then we all know what happened. So it didn't end up panning out, but Creative at Heart really for me was the catalyst into starting something here in Oregon. And I had 2 amazing workshops, absolutely loved it. And as we all know, the podcast is kind of a branch off of that because I just love, I love networking. I love connecting with other wedding pros. And that's part of the reason that I love going to Wedding MBA every year, because even though it's like, okay, I don't necessarily need to sit in and listen on every single speaker because I've been in business for a while. I'm not new to this. But even if there were no speakers or presentations, I would still go just to meet people, just to go out to dinner, just to go to the fun events in the evenings, just to network and connect. Like, I just cannot get enough, and I love it so much. So anyway, so Creative at Heart in 2018 was kind of the catalyst for me that really got me excited about education. Before that, I had purchased some things. I had purchased some templates. I have I think it was from the Planner's Lounge, some kind of wedding planner template kit that I got really early on in my business, and it had a consultation questionnaire. And I still use that to this day. I've tweaked it a lot. So I've added questions, I've taken questions away, but as a whole, I use that framework to this day. And honestly, it was probably less than $50. It was, I can't remember. It was maybe like $30 for this template pack way back when. And that's pretty cool that I still use it today. So that's an example of something that I totally am happy with, that purchase, of course. And then there's ones that I have not been super happy with. I'm not going to name drop anyone. I'll share, some not great experiences, but it's all anonymous. So I bought like a vision board template several years ago, thinking I could use that in my business to kind of like up-level my design boards, my vision boards. But unfortunately, it was like, oh, this is not what I thought it was. This is so basic, and unfortunately, that can be an experience. If you don't really know what you're getting, you think it's this great product and then you buy it and it's not always what you think. And so we'll touch back on that later. That's something that we're going to come back to. But I've got template kits, I've got welcome packet templates, like I mentioned, the vision board templates, all kinds of things. There are so many educational opportunities and things that we can purchase now, which I think is fantastic because when I was starting back in 2012, there was like very, very minimal. And I will share my personal experience with this. So I signed up for a certification course in wedding planning while I was still in college. And I thought that this was like the way to go. It was about $1,000. So it wasn't cheap. But I felt like, if I get this certification, then I'll be legit as a wedding planner and people will trust me and they'll want to hire me. And so I dropped this money on this course. And a couple weeks later, this big package arrived in the mail and I'm so excited because I'm going to get started on this course and I'm going to become a legit wedding planner and I'm going to know everything that I need to know. And these booklets, I don't even want to call them books, like booklets. They were very thin. Gosh, they were so basic. I just remember thinking, man, I could have Googled any of this and got better answers just on Google because they were so basic. And I was like, dang. And I had like tests that I had to do each week based on the course material. And I got about halfway through it and just realized, you know what? This is a huge waste of my time. I'm not learning anything new. I'm gaining way more experience by getting out there and coordinating and planning weddings. And that for me was where the real education and the real knowledge came from. And I was in an internship at the time with another wedding planner. And so the hands-on experience was where I was learning. I wasn't learning anything from these booklets that arrived that they were categorized like social events and bat mitzvahs and birthday parties and weddings. And they were just these tiny little booklets with the most basic information I could possibly imagine. So it blew my mind that it was $1,000 for that. And I was really bummed, but I decided not to finish it because I felt like my time is more valuable than the time that I'm putting into this. And I just kind of realized having this title, you got some kind of a title once you were certified. And I think I just, as a new planner, I looked at that and I've had a lot of new planners ask me, is certification worth it? Should I do this? And my personal experience is that nobody in 12 years has ever asked me, are you certified? Or do you have, an education in wedding planning? Nobody's ever asked me that. They just want to know, do I have real experience planning weddings like their weddings? And so it was a really good learning experience for me because one, I spent that money on it thinking it was going to be worth my while and it didn't end up being that way. And I decided just my time was more valuable than even finishing the course and getting that title. So anyways, that's my story about my certification experience. That is not to say that there are not great certification programs out there. If you want me to tell you who I went through, I'm happy to. Again, I'm not comfortable name dropping on this podcast because it is public. But if you wanted to message me and say, hey, wanted to know what company that was, I would be happy to share with you. Because maybe it's way better now. I have no idea. Again, this was 12 years ago. And there are a lot of great different organizations and opportunities for certification. So please do not take this as me saying not to get certified or not to go through something like that. This is just my personal experience. Okay, so I've also done some different workshops. I've done a paid goal setting workshop. I've done something, I think it was called Profitable Planner Workshop years ago. I've done some different courses. I most recently purchased a passive income course through the Bridal Theory, which I'm not done going through it yet, but I have been enjoying it. And I am really excited to, I already have my product, my digital product is in the works and will be launching sometime. I'm not really ready to put a date on it yet because there's still a lot of work to do, but I've enjoyed going through her course and learning about passive income and digital products. So aside from that, memberships are another wonderful form of education. I, in the past, was a part of Planner's Vault, which I will totally plug that because Megan Gillikin is amazing. And if you're a new planner in maybe 5 or less years of business, I cannot recommend the Planner's Vault enough. It is absolutely amazing. It is just chock full of templates and resources. And there's a very active Facebook group with all kinds of great information. And I mean, really, it's so worth the money. So that is one membership I'd highly recommend. There's also the Planner's Playbook, which I am currently a part of because I am a part of Wedding Pro Insiders. And that is Candace Coppola's mastermind coaching group that I've been a part of for the past year. And so because of that, I just get free access to the Planner's Playbook, which is really great, again, for newer planners. There are so many great courses, and she calls them playbooks, and they're so detailed, more detailed than anything that I've seen in the industry for planners. She really goes in depth on various topics, including design. Like she's doing this whole big design course right now, in structuring your pricing and your packages as a planner, and so many topics. So again, highly, highly recommend the Planner's Playbook. I'm also a part of the Refine Collective, which is kind of an offshoot of the Refine for Wedding Planners. There's like the main Facebook group, which is public to anybody. And then there's a paid offshoot that is very affordable. And Amber does workshops and live trainings every month. And those are really great. So those are just a handful of memberships that are out there. There's all kinds of different ones for photographers and various types of wedding pros. So it's certainly worth looking into. I mentioned conferences earlier, Creative at Heart, Wedding MBA. There are so many great ones. One that I have always thought sounds amazing is the Be Sage conference. And there's Engage, the huge luxury conference that happens multiple times a year, Engage Summits. There's the Wedding Pro CEO conference that Brandy Garr puts on, and there's all kinds of stuff. So if you value in-person education and networking, then I highly recommend just looking into the options in your area, or if you're willing to travel, see what is around, because there is stuff happening all year long, all throughout the country and the world. Okay, and then my personal favorite, I would say of all the different things I've done, my favorite type of education would have to be masterminds, because it's one thing to learn from one person, for one person to pour into you and to share their knowledge and their expertise. Like that's amazing. But to have that and a group of women or, a group of business owners who are in the same industry as you, who have been where you are, also sharing their experience and being able to bounce ideas off of each other and just being able to have that community, I absolutely love it. So I have done 3 masterminds over the years. Like I mentioned, I'm currently in Candace Coppola's Wedding Pro program. It's a mastermind. It's a coaching program. We get one-on-one access to Candace. And then we also are in a group mastermind. So we do monthly mastermind calls. We also have our, more individual calls with Candace. We have small group coaching calls with Candace. And we have there's so many resources. I couldn't even tell you all of it. I know that she just did open the doors to it, and we have some new members, which is very exciting. But I'm assuming the doors are closed at the moment. But depending on when you're listening to this, check it out. It is one of the best, for sure, one of the best investments I've ever made in my business. So, again, it's called Wedding Pro Insiders. And I'll link all of this in the show notes. Any of these that are like I have a positive review on, I'm for sure going to share all of this in the show notes in case you are, looking for some fun new educational opportunities. The other ones that I've done, so when I came back from Creative at Heart in 2018, there was a newer educator in my area, well, in Oregon, and she started something called Wedding Pro Coaching, and it just happened like timing wise. I just remember coming back from Creative at Heart and then having this opportunity come up. And so I joined her group mastermind. I think it was small. There were 5 or 6 of us in the group, I want to say. And there was a mix of planners and rental companies because the woman who ran it, she had a rental company. And so that was kind of her area of expertise. And this was before I ever owned my rental company, which is kind of funny to look back on that now. But at the time, it was, to me, a big investment to join it. It was almost $1,000. I just remember being like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of money. This is kind of scary, but it was super fun. And oh, you know what? I just realized I've been a part of 4 masterminds. I literally just remembered one. But this was my first one. It was with Lena Richards. She's awesome. I don't think she's in the wedding industry anymore, but she started Wedding Pro Coaching, and she, was a great resource. She had a ton of knowledge and expertise, and I really enjoyed just chatting with the other members every month and just learning from her and from them. And so that was awesome. And then through Refine, which you've heard me mention multiple times on the podcast, Amber Anderson, when she started the Refine Collective, she asked if people were interested in group masterminds, and everybody was super excited about it. So she basically grouped people together. So I don't know how she did it, but she put people together in groups of like 4 to 5 people. And she placed me way back in 2020 with Darcy, who is my virtual assistant, Maya, who is an amazing wedding planner over in Washington, D.C., and Amanda, who is a planner and a venue manager down in Austin, Texas, and Danielle, who didn't end up staying in our mastermind because the timing she's in Canada and the timing didn't work for her. But it's so funny because now she's in WPI with me, and I got to meet her at Wedding MBA, and anyways, super cool. But so Amber put this group together, and we started meeting on Zoom just monthly. And it has continued until now, 4 years later, which is so cool. And we've all met in person multiple times. We met up in Austin in 2022, I want to say. And it was so fun meeting in person for the first time. And then some of us went to Wedding MBA last year. And anyways, it's just such a fun group, and I'm so grateful for them. And we've just continued to just have this relationship where we can share and we can, cheer each other on and also help each other out when things aren't going so great in our businesses. So I can't recommend finding that community and being a part of that enough. I definitely talked about this more in my community, I think it was called What Can Community Do For You episode, where I just touched on the importance of like finding that community, and a mastermind is a great way to do that. And Darcy, who I mentioned, I met in our mastermind, and then she went on to become my VA, and she's also Maya's VA. She started a mastermind for VAs now too. So if you are not finding a mastermind that's right for you, you can totally start one and just bring people together. Be the one to bring like-minded people together and make your own mastermind. And the other one that I did, again, I can't remember which came first because I think there was overlap for sure. But when I had my rental company in the beginning, I was using a software called RW Elephant. And I just heard that they were starting to offer these masterminds with the founder of RW Elephant, Allison. And so I signed up to be a part of that. And it was super helpful for me because I was a brand new rental business owner, and these were all rental business owners. And so I learned so much through that and from them. And so again, masterminds, we love them. So there's conferences, there's memberships, there's masterminds, there's courses, there's workshops, there's templates. There are so many ways that you can get educated. And not only that, but I had to touch on this too, because of course we can, find different things to invest in, but there are so many amazing free educational resources now too, right? There are podcasts, just like you're listening to right now, that are free and that will just fill you up with all kinds of educational content. So some of my favorite wedding industry podcasts, I'm sure I've mentioned some of these on the show before, but I have to plug my business coach again, Candace Coppola. She has the Power and Purpose podcast. It is so good. She's just encouraging and inspiring, and it's just not fluff, it's real, tangible, practical advice, which is what I am all about. So definitely give hers a listen. She just started doing 2 every single week now. It used to just be once a week, and now it's 2 a week, which is the best. So can't recommend her podcast enough. There's also, I know I've talked about Own Your Business with Sam Jacobson of ID Action Consulting on here. Super good stuff. There's Wedding Industry Insider with Eddie Babbage, who's the founder of Timeline Genius. He brings on all kinds of great guests for interviews, and they're super informational. So those are a few of my favorites. I will link even more in the show notes because I'm a big time podcast listener, and I'd say like 90% of the podcasts I listen to are wedding industry related. I do have a couple random ones that I listen to, which like my main one, just in case anyone out there is curious, it's Pod Meets World, which is a Boy Meets World rewatch podcast with the cast of the show, minus Ben Savage. So it's Danielle Fishel, who's Topanga, Will Friedle, and Ryder Strong. And they're all best friends, and they just come on and watch each episode, and then they talk about it, and it is so crazy entertaining. I would have never known, but Boy Meets World was my favorite show and my husband's favorite show growing up, and so it's just super nostalgic, and we love it. Anyways, in case you need another random podcast to listen to, highly recommend it. Okay, so we have free podcasts, right? We have free Facebook groups. Like I mentioned, the Refine for Wedding Planners. It is specific to wedding planners. Facebook group is amazing. I know that Emma of Emma K Films with the We Got You podcast, she has a great group as well for photographers and videographers. There's all if you just search wedding industry group on Facebook, you'll find all kinds of good stuff. Of course, there's local groups, but there's these ones that are more for education and collaboration and all that good stuff. So again, it's just another free resource. There's also, I'm sure you've seen free trainings, free master classes. For example, the Book More Wedding Summit that happened over the summer that I was a part of with Heidi Thompson of Evolve Your Wedding Business. That was a totally free seminar that she put on. And so there's all kinds of great stuff like that is completely free. I know that Margot Frazee in the past has done Wedding Summit series as well, which is a free resource. I know Brandy Garr offers a lot of like free trainings and free master classes for wedding pros. So again, so many great resources. And then of course you will see all kinds of free like PDF downloads or templates that various wedding pros and educators will offer. So as you can see, there are so many amazing free resources in addition to all the paid opportunities. And so now I just wanted to break down a few things that I would say to do if you are ready to invest in some education and some things not to do. So let's jump into it. The first one is to do your research. Okay. I think this is a given, but I have heard one too many stories of somebody who paid for some kind of education, whether it was a course or coaching, and they just felt like it was not worth it. It's not what they thought it was. And so just make sure before you drop this money, whether it's a high ticket offering or a lower ticket, like do your research, ask around to your wedding pro colleagues and friends and see if they have any experience with this person or with this product. And read reviews, of course, just like we do for everything else. Why wouldn't we do that for industry education? Read reviews, check their social proof, make sure that they have actual people who are doing what you're doing. So if you're a planner, make sure they have reviews from other planners. If you're a photographer, make sure you're seeing reviews from other photographers that they really did deliver on their promise, that the product or the service was as expected. And just know what you're getting. Credibility is important in education. Again, anybody can come out and say, I'm an educator, and maybe they've only, been in the industry for a short time, or they've only done a small amount of weddings. You just want to make sure that the person that you're buying from has done and achieved the things that you want to do and achieve. Like they should be ahead of you on the path that you are on. And So again, just checking around and making sure that you know what you're getting and that you do your research. So that's number one. Number two is to put the time in. So do put the time in, because I know, especially if it's more of like a self-paced course, something like that, it's easy to purchase it and then to just let it sit there. But that's no good for anybody. That's not good for you. That's not good for the person you bought it from. Obviously, you can't learn and grow unless you put the time in to actually do the thing that you purchased. So take the time, put it in your calendar and spread it out. Like for me, I have to really break stuff up. So I might spend an hour a week or a couple hours a week working on a course or something, going through something like that. So just make the time for it, prioritize it. If you're going to spend the money on it, obviously it's important to you. And so just make sure that you are, putting in the time, because if you don't do that, then you can't really talk or say, oh yeah, I got this thing and then it wasn't worth it. Well, you don't know that because you didn't actually put in the time to complete it. And unless you go through it all, you just don't really know. I will say there might be a situation where you purchased a course and you start going through it and you realize like, oh, I already know all of this, which has happened to me before. Or, oh, this is just not what I thought it was, or this isn't being explained very well, or it's kind of jumping around. There are not great courses out there. And so if that's the situation, then I wouldn't say to power through and finish it if you're really not enjoying it. Just like I mentioned earlier with my certification course, I didn't finish it and I was okay with that. So there are times when you have to just decide for yourself, is it worth it? Is it worth my time to go through and finish this? Or are we just going to call it what it is? And yes, I paid for it, but it's not worth it. And that money is gone and we're just going to be okay with it. And then number three is do try different things. So maybe you tried a course or a workshop and it wasn't great for you, but you know that you want to grow and you want to keep evolving in your business and you want to continue learning. Don't give up. Don't think, oh, that one thing didn't work out for me, so I'm just not going to spend money on education anymore. Don't give up on it, because as we discussed earlier, there's so many different types of education and you might not have just found the thing that works for you yet. So for example, maybe the courses and the workshops aren't for you, but maybe a one-on-one coaching or a group mastermind is for you. And that is the way that you would really learn and you would grow and evolve. So just be open to trying different things and not just assuming that you're just going to stick with one type of education. We all learn in different ways, and some of us are more visual learners and some of us are not. And some of us need to watch something happen in order to be able to do it. And some of us can just listen to it being described and be totally fine with that. So just finding a way that works for you to learn best is what I think is important. So just try different things. Okay, so those are my 3 do's for you when it comes to wedding industry education. And now we're going to talk about 3 don'ts. And I'm sure they're kind of connected to the do's as well. So the first one is don't rush into it. Okay, so that's kind of tying back to the do your research. Don't rush into something because it's on some sale or you see an Instagram ad for something and you just jump into it without really doing your research. So don't rush into it. Take your time, look up the person, look up the educator, make sure that they have the credibility and the social proof to really know that it's going to be worth your while and that it's going to be worth your time and that you're going to have the time to do it. So don't rush into it. The second one is don't judge it if you haven't actually done it or implemented it. So that goes back to the do put your time in. If you purchased a course and then, never went through it, you can't really judge it or say it's not good or just have any kind of like negativity towards it because you didn't actually take the time to go through it. So again, I realize this is a little bit repetitive. But make the time to go through it, and you can't really judge it if you haven't actually done it. Oh, no, that's the second part. So, of course, there's the just going through the course, right? So, one, if you don't do that, then you can't learn from it. But secondly, going through the course or the workshop or the training or whatever it is only a small fraction of the puzzle here, right? We have to actually take what we learned and implement it. And so that's my main point with this one is if you don't actually take what you learned and implement it into your business and try it out and see what happens, see if it works for you, then you can't really judge the product if you're not willing to try it. So take what you learn and put it into practice. And that's where you will see the results. But if you just are constantly soaking in knowledge, maybe you're somebody who's constantly listening to podcasts or taking these free master classes or buying courses, whatever. But if you're not doing what you are hearing and learning, it's useless. And so just make sure that you're implementing it and that you are taking the time and the initiative to put forth what you have learned. Okay, and then number 3 is don't buy from someone who hasn't done it themselves. So I think that's pretty straightforward, but if you are a planner and you're wanting to learn how to execute a wedding flawlessly, or you're wanting to learn about sales process for your wedding planning business, if the person who is selling this service or product, whatever it is, if they haven't actually done the thing successfully that you are needing to do, I would not buy from them. I think it's pretty straightforward, but there unfortunately are a lot of people out there who are selling education, and they haven't actually done the thing. So just make sure that whoever you're buying from has done the thing that they're selling and that they can speak from personal experience and not just from whoever their people are. Maybe they have people in a program or something and they're speaking on behalf of their students. But if they haven't done it themselves, I just think that is a big, fat, red flag. Okay, well, those are my 3 do's and my 3 don'ts for you when it comes to wedding industry education. If you have any thoughts on this, I'd love to hear from you. If you are like, whoa, Becky, you're way off base, or if you've had an experience with an educator that, again, you don't need to name drop, but I'm just curious, what everyone thinks on this topic. As always, I always love hearing from you guys. I want this podcast to be two-way. I don't want it to just be me talking at you guys. I really want it to be a conversation. And so whenever you message me and say, hey, I was just listening to this episode and I loved this, or, oh, I loved that point that you brought up. It just means a lot to me to know that you are listening, and I appreciate it so much. So again, I just want this to be more of a two-way conversation and not just me talking at you guys. So never hesitate to reach out. I'm always open to chatting with you. So, and again, if you're going to be at Wedding MBA next month, the 12th through the 14th in Vegas, let me know. Let's meet up. And with that, I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll be back here next Friday. All right. Bye, friends. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Event Crushed podcast. I hope you found value in this episode, and if you did, please consider sharing it with a wedding industry friend. We also hope you'll consider leaving a rating or review for the show to help other listeners find it. This podcast is edited and produced by Ace Sound Design. If you're looking to elevate your audio experience, their info can be found in the show description. As always, thank you for listening, and please connect with us on Instagram if you haven't already. Now get out there and crush it.